Online students, can you hear me? Yeah, happy Republic Day. So, did you participated in flag hosting? No, why? No holiday, huh? Okay, if I gave you holiday, would you have participated in flag hosting? Wow. I know you will participate in deep sleeping. We will have respect to our freedom fighters and we will respect our country. Patriotism will come only 2 days of the entire year. Independence Day, Republic Day. These 2 days are India, India. After that, Tokla, India. This is the truth, right? Maybe my thought process is wrong. So, after I watch RR movie, Triple R movie, in that Ram Charan is got prison and put inside small hole down, na? Then I really felt the pain freedom fighters has got, the punishments freedom fighters got. Just you visualize yourself, you got placed in that for one day, not about many days, just 1 day, you feel yourself how much they got the pain, okay, to bring the Republic Day or, Independence Day to our India. So actually you have to respect our, freedom fighters here together. And you should pray, love your country years together. Of course, 2 days we have to show our, unity. It's good. But when, as a student in the school, you have to show your patriotism. And as a student in the college, you have to show your patriotism. Now, as a, Java learner, if you miss the class for participating, flag hosting and all, how much it is and I don't say that don't go there. Missing the class and going, how much is correct, how far it is correct, I don't know. Now you are struggling for your freedom, na? Yes. Like how freedom fighters are fight with the British people to get the freedom, you should fight yourself for your life to get the freedom. Why didn't you come yesterday? Pathan movie, yeah? Huh? For movie purpose, you miss the class. Huh? Your friend, somebody told, I didn't believe it actually. Tell me what you discussed yesterday. Yesterday we discussed checked and unchecked exceptions. So hope I no need to do revision. Yeah. So last class we completed types of exception, their purpose. I wanted to throw an exception without forcing to catch or report, without forcing to handle. Which type of exception I have to use? Unchecked exception. I want to throw an exception and must force to handle, then checked exception. If the program, even though program execution is abnormally terminated with some exception, there is no much data loss, there is no much damage to the program, we can recover. Then we have to create that exception as a unchecked. If and the problem occurred in the program can be solved by particular end user, then we can create that exception as a unchecked exception. Because of an exception, program is abnormally terminated, lot of data loss and damage is happen, and the end user cannot solve that problem by himself, then we should create that exception as checked exception, so that programmer will taking all precautionary actions at the time of program development by compiler force. At runtime, if at all we got that exception, there is a proper flow will be there, either for running or for recovering. Either for running normally or for recovering the problem, there will be a proper logic we will write. Hence, the checked exceptions are suitable to create only when we are dealing with what? Outside resources. Okay, right. Then, while working with the non-checked exceptions, there are no rules. Just you throw and leave it. But when you are working with the checked exception, we have to follow 7 rules. Most difficulty topic and very difficult to understand. Okay, na? So I'll try to make you understand. Please try to reply so that you will understand. So tell me, how many rules are there in checked exception? 7 rules. Yesterday, already I have completed 1 rule. The checked exception rule is, when you throw an exception, you must handle, when you throw checked exception, you must handle that exception. Otherwise, compiler will throw error. How you must handle? Either by catching or by reporting. Either by catching or by reporting, by using try catch or by using throws. Now look at here. I am throwing arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception is what type of exception? Unchecked. Mandatory to handle or not mandatory to handle? Any compile time error? No. Next. Class not found exception is what type of exception? Checked exception. Okay. Is it mandatory to handle? Yes. Else compiler throw error. Exception has unreported exception, class not found exception has not caught or not declared to be thrown. Declared to be thrown means what? I am not catching. It is just, I am just throwing. The user programmer will catch. Now tell me, what is the solution to this compile time error? We must catch and suppress, compile, or we must declare it to be thrown. What the meaning of declared to be thrown? I am informing to compiler, I will throw, my method caller will catch. So I'm writing throws keyword, then program compile. Everyone understand? Yes. For example, I am defining a method called M5 method. Inside M5 method, I am calling M4 method. Tell me, am I throwing exception or calling a method? Control will go from M5 method to M4 method. M4 method is telling to you, I will throw class not found exception. That means M4 method is reporting an exception to M5 method. Na? Is that exception handled or not handled? When method is reporting an exception, that means that exception is propagating to calling method. The calling method handle that exception or not handle? Not handle. Then compiler will verify that exception is what type? Checked or unchecked? It is what type? Checked. Checked exception you must handle. Else compiler throw error. Handled or not handled? Exception. Unreported exception, class not found exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. Hello, this is compile time error or runtime error? Huh? How compile time you'll got runtime error? It is a compile time error, syntax mistake. What is the syntax mistake? When you throw or receive checked exception, you must handle. Here I am throwing exception, I must handle. Here I am throwing or receiving. When I call a method, I am receiving exception. Did I handle or not handle? Not handle. That's why compiler throwing error. How can we handle? Same. How? Either by catching or by reporting. I have to comment this. Here I call M4 and catching. No error. Here I call M4 method and reporting. Any error? No error. Tell me. Now everyone should answer. I am calling M7 method in a main method. Is it compiled or not compiled? I'm calling M7 method in a main method. Compiled or not compiled? Why? M7 method is throwing a checked exception. Did you handle it? No. Then compiler throwing error. I want to handle this exception by using throws. Throws class not found exception. Then tell me, sir, when I write throws class not found exception here, we are informing to compiler the exception coming from M7 method I am reporting to my method. Checked when we throw or receive a checked exception. When we throw or receive a checked exception, we must handle it either by catching or by reporting. Okay, now both ways we can do that. If you want to catch exception and suppress that exception, then you can catch it. No, I don't want to catch. I want my method caller to catch. Then you report, he will catch. So this is the basic idea about rule number 1. Rule number 2. Tell me, I can write catch block to catch one exception. When should I write catch block? For fun? Catch block is meant for what? Catching an exception. If no exception coming from the try block, if I write catch block, is it a useless or not? Yes. No, no. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. When an exception is thrown from the try block, to catch for catch block, if I write, it's meaningful. Without throwing an exception from the try block, if you place catch block, it is useless, right? Bytecode generated and is never executed. Tell me, what is the, when you write one statement, that statement must have at least one chance to execute. Remember, after return break continue, if you write return statement, break statement, compiler throw. After return break continue statement, if you write one statement, compiler will throw error because the statement never executed. If you write one statement, it should have at least one chance to execute. Tell me, if we never get arithmetic exception from the try block, but still I have written catch of arithmetic exception, the program is compiler, not compiler? Should not be compiled because the arithmetic exception is never raised. Sleeping? Understand? Yes. Now the question, who will throw arithmetic exception? Either programmer or JVM. Programmer throw from compilation time with the statement throw arithmetic exception. JVM throw at compilation time or runtime? Is what happened at runtime, is it known to the compiler? No. Listen carefully and try to answer. Try, open bracket, closed bracket, catch of arithmetic exception, E open bracket, closed bracket, I have written. Empty try with catch of arithmetic exception, I have written. Compiler will throw error or will not throw error? Will not throw error because arithmetic exception is a unchecked exception. Compiler will check whether that exception throwing from the try? No. Compiler will always ignore the operations about unchecked exception. Now I am writing try, open bracket, closed bracket. Catch of class not found exception I have written. Class not, immediately now compiler take the class not found exception and verifies. Is it a checked or unchecked? Found it is what? Checked. Checked exception will be thrown by whom? Programmer only. At runtime, is there any chance will throw by the JVM? No, because it must be thrown by programmer only. If programmer thrown only, the exception rise at runtime, otherwise will never rise. Then JVM, sorry, then compiler will go to the try block from first line to last line. It is verifying, is there any chance class not found exception coming out of this try block. If no class not found exception, right? Why you're writing catch of class not found exception? Because at runtime there is no chance we'll get class not found exception. The catch block is never executed. Unnecessary byte code is increased. So it is throwing error to remove. So what is the rule number 2? Without throwing checked exception from the try block, you cannot write catch block. If you try to write catch block, compiler will throw error, exception, class not found exception, never raised from the corresponding try statement. Corresponding try statement. Let me show you that point. Ardhamainda second rule? What is that? Look at that. Try without throwing arithmetic exception. Can I throw this? Yes. No compile time error. Without throwing null pointer exception, can I write catch block? Yes, because it is unchecked exception. Without throwing class not found exception, can I write catch? No. Compiler throw error. Exception class not found exception is never thrown in the body of corresponding try statement. Fire interrupted exception is a checked exception. Exception, interrupted exception is never thrown in a body of the corresponding try statement. Why this rule is created for checked exception? Why not for unchecked exception? Checked exceptions are thrown only by programmer. If programmer not written throw the checked exception at the compilation time, runtime no chance to get, then class 2 catch blocks are waste. That's why throwing error. So repeat once again 2 rules of the checked exception. When we throw or receive checked exception, we must handle. Else compiler throw error. Unreported exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. Rule number 2. Without throwing checked exception from try block, we cannot place catch block. Compiler throw compile time error. Exception is never thrown from the corresponding try statement. Okay, na? Shall I go next point? Will you get error for catch of error? Will you get compile time error for catch of error? Why? Error is a unchecked exception. Will you get error for runtime exception? No, because it is a unchecked exception. Will you get error for catch of exception? Yes or no? No? Yes, sir. Why? Exception is a checked exception, na? Unchecked exception is a checked exception, right? When I check without throwing checked exception from the try, we cannot write catch of. Exception is a checked exception. So we will must get compile time error. Achha nahi aaya. Correct hai. Why compiler not throwing error? Why compiler not throwing error? Because it is unchecked. This exception may come at runtime. It is unchecked. Exception may come at runtime. It is a checked exception, but it has 2 subclasses: unchecked exception, runtime exception hierarchy, and checked exceptions hierarchy. It is acting here as the main catch block to catch exception as a backup catch block. Error, runtime exception, exceptions are backup catch block. Then when you write catch of exception, compiler doesn't throw error because it is feeling, oh, from the try block there is a chance we'll get runtime, we'll get unchecked exception. That unchecked exception can be catch here. Understand my point? So for unchecked exceptions sake, they have not throwing error for exception A. Same way, will you get error for throwable? No. Throwable is a checked exception, but also meant for receiving unchecked exception error. Error type unchecked exceptions are there, na? So for that, there is no error. Very, very important point. When we throw class not found exception or interrupted, when you write class not found or interrupted exception catch blocks, without throwing from the try block, we cannot place these catch blocks. But without throwing exception and throwable from the try block, we can write catch block, because compiler treat them as backup catch block for unchecked exceptions to catch. Tell me, is this a second rule applied on these checked exceptions? No. That means they are fully checking or partially checking. If both rules are checking, then we say what? Fully checked. But it is checking only one rule. Second rule is not checking. That's why it is called what? Partially checked exception. Go back to the previous diagram. Tell me, today I am also in sleeping mode. Okay. A exceptions का क्या है? ए दोनों क्या है? Partially checked है. A partially checked क्यों है? Compiler software not applying all the rules. We can write catch of throwable, catch of exception, even though we are not throwing from try block, because of error and runtime exception. Tell me, remaining all subclasses of exceptions are what? Fully or pure checked. Fully checked or pure checked. That means all rules of checked exceptions are applied on these exceptions. So totally how many types of checked exceptions are there? Two types. Partially checked and a checked exception that contains both subclasses of unchecked and checked exceptions is called what? Partially checked. Because of unchecked exceptions, one of the rules of checked exception is not applied. That means we can write catch of these throwable, catch of exception without throwing those exceptions from the try block. समझ में आया? Are all rules not applied? Only catch block rule not applied? I am throwing exception but not handled. Compiler, not compiled? Not compiled, because it is checked exception. When you throw checked exception, you must handle, not handle. So throwing error. So that means it is a fully checked or partially checked? Throw new interrupt throwable, compile time error come. So do you all understand two rules? What the two rules? Reply once again. When we throw or receive checked exception, we must handle it either by catching or by reporting. Else we'll get compile time error. Unreported exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. Next rule. Without throwing checked exception from the try block, we cannot place catch block. Compiler will throw error. Note, we can place catch of exception, catch of throwable without throwing from try block, because they are meant for catching, not only checked, also for unchecked. From the unchecked exception point of view, compiler leaving them without throwing error by considering them as a backup catch blocks. Now, because the catch block rule is not applying on exception and throwable, these two classes are called partially checked exception. On exception and throwable, only catch block rule is not applied. Remaining all rules of checked exception will be applied. That means when we throw exception or throwable from a method without handling, compiler will throw error. Up to now, understand? Shall I go for next point? Next point is little difficult. Let's see how many people can answer. I have written M9 with throws class not found exception. Tell me, is this M9 method compiler, not compile? M9 method compiler, not compile? Without throwing the exception from the try, you cannot place catch blocks. Similarly, without throwing exception from this method, can I write throws exception? Throws checked exception. Allowed or not allowed? Allowed. Without throwing, we cannot write catch. but without throwing, we can write throws. Did you remember inheritance chapter? In inheritance chapter, repeat once again. Without throwing, we cannot place catch block. Why? It is a rule. Correct about that. Without throwing, checked exception from the try block, we cannot place catch block. Why? It's a rule. Yes or no? Without throwing checked exception from the method, we can add throws declaration. No compile time error. Why? Because compiler allowing. Yes or no? Arey yaar. Come again. What is the very important point? What is the very important point, online students? Without throwing checked exception, we cannot catch. But without throwing checked exception, we can report that checked exception, no compile time error. Very important point. Remember. Okay. Remember? Good. Okay. This is how you are learning. No student will ask why. How? How? Without throwing, why you cannot write? Without throwing, why you can write? Yeah, enduko? Yeah, ante. That is rule. That is syntax. Follow. Remember. A for ante. Don't ask me why aeroplane. Same problem. You know, method overriding rules. 4 rules are there, right? Why those rules? Java told we are learning. Why Java created that rules? Ask James Gosling. James Gosling not required. Come to Harikrishna Gosling. Okay. Simple point here. Tell me here, without throwing catch block, without throwing exception from the try, we cannot write catch. Who is writing this logic? This method developer. Then who should throw? That method developer only. If you don't throw, that exception will not come, then why you are writing catch? Understand the reason behind the rule. The most important point. Why Harikrishna taking 6 months to complete core Java? Because he teach reason behind the rules also. He will make me not only programmer, also James Gosling. Yes or no? You no need to James Gosling to ask any question. You only can answer. Why other faculties can complete the course very fast? Because just they will teach you the rules and complete. Without throwing, we cannot write. Why? None of your business. Remember. Without throwing, we can write throws. Why? None of your business. Remember. And moreover, from the day beginning of their course, their students, his students are tuned such a way. Listen, remember, write. Listen, remember, write. By heart. If interview asks the question, answer. If interview asks the beyond that question, then what? My sir also don't know. Why you don't know? Your sir don't know. Why your sir don't know? Not interested to teach. But I am interested to teach because my students should not face any question. My students should not say, I don't know in the interview. If you say, I don't know in the interview, it is insulting to me. When you go to interview, by seeing your answers, interview should get a doubt. Ray, 1 minute, are you fresher or experienced? I am working in a company last 10 years on Java. I don't know. How do you know? HK product. Okay. That proud moment I want you feel. Are you catching my point? Real I'm saying. When your interviewer appreciated you, the last 6 months of hard work you did will give you happiness. When your interviewer praising you, how do you know this much knowledge, man? Then you realize, yes, I know more. The interviewer get impressed. Or job ichchada leda naku sambandham ledhu. Whether he giving me job or not, least bother. Because I already succeeded. If interviewer not giving me job, it is not my mistake. He's a threat problem. If he give me job, now he's feeling that his job, he may lose his job because I'll occupy his chair. Catching my point? Maybe he will be my competitor feeling he's not giving job. Internal politics. Remember, software industry is having more politics than our real politics. Okay, everyone thinking about, if I give job to him, because of him, will I get any threat? Like that, they're thinking on giving you job. And next, if I give job to him, will he work with my company more years, like 4-5 years will he work? Then only I'll give job. Today you join, next month you resign. Why I should give job to you? Correct my point? So long term, if you work, then there is a benefit to the company, to the employee. If you join today and leaving, no use. So what kind of candidates will work more days with the company? If you are satisfied with the salary, and also if you are satisfied with the work. When the person is satisfied with the work, daily if you are learning something new from the company, then you are going to stay with the company. Yes or no? You will not give you job if you show complete your talent on Java. 10 questions I asked. If you give answers to the all 10 questions, I will not give you job. Adin sir, good only na? Bad. You will not work with the company more years. You will find another better opportunity and leave the company. Again, I have to search for the candidate to give you job. Again, interview process, money and time waste. So if you want to get a job from this company, out of 10 questions, answer only 7 questions. And 70% only perform. Remaining 30% don't perform. Perform. In that 30%, perform 50%. How? Let me think. You know answer already. Tell me why we cannot write catch block without throwing from the try block. Don't quickly answer. Immediately don't answer as if, yeah, without throwing, how the exception will come. It is a checked exception. Checked exceptions are come only when programmer throw. Because if the programmer not throwing, the exceptions will not come. The catch block is unnecessary byte code base. That's why compiler throwing error. Tak, 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 you answer. Interrogate, look at you scared way and say, one more. This fellow have the knowledge equal to James Gosling. No, get out. I don't give job. In the interview, you must act as if you don't know answer. In that interview, at that time you are thinking for the answer and finding the answer. You must act like a hero. Okay, na? In interview, you must be a good actor. Otherwise, you will not get job. Okay, let me think, I never come across, like Pushpa, Tagedala. So you have to think, you have to act there. Let me think, I never come across this question. Try block without writing catch. Catch block what? You have to analyze in front of him with the outerwise. Catch block is meant for catching checked exception. Who will throw checked exception? Checked exceptions are thrown only by programmer with the help of throw keyword. If I don't throw checked exception at runtime, JVM will not throw any checked exception. So that means if the checked exception not have a chance to come at compilation time, runtime also 100% it will not come. Then why this catch block? What the purpose of the catch block? What the basic functionality of the compiler? Compiler allows a statement if it has at least one chance to execute. It has a 0 chances to execute. Then why this statement not required? Okay, now I got answer. Okay, let me tell you. Because checked exceptions are raised only if the programmer throw by using throw keyword. Because programmer not throwing exception, it never come, and this catch block is waste. That's why compiler throwing error. Are you following? This is how you have to give answer in the interview room. You must act. Hey, every question you should not act. What is exception? And array, I never come across exception. Let me think. Okay, na? Fundamental points you should not think in the interview room. You must give direct answer. When he asks some tricky question like this, can you tell me the reason behind this rule? Kind of questions. He's asking for the reasons. You know every reason behind the rule, but you should not answer that reason directly. You must act and give the answer. Totally 100% you answer. Some questions you give answer immediately. Some questions you give answer by thinking, as if you are thinking there. Understand, Vaya? Right. This is how you have to work. So, come on. Now I want you analyze the reason behind this point. Why we got error to the catch block? Why we are not getting error to the throws keyword? when we cannot write catch block without throwing exception. Why compiler allowing us to write throws checked exception without throwing from the method? Tell me, this throws class not found exception is a part of logic or part of declaration? A method declaration is meant for providing information to current developer or user developer, and one more developer. Who? End user. End user is not a developer, yeah. End user never see the logic. Main method is the user class developer. So by writing throws class not found exception, I am informing to the main method developer nothing but method caller. Array, this method will throw exception. You write try catch. Okay, na? Tell me, according to inheritance, totally how many programmers are there? 3. Super class developer, subclass developer, user class developer, LCRP architecture diagram. Remember? If I don't teach inheritance with 3 class programmers knowledge, LCRP architecture knowledge, today class you cannot understand. Okay, na? Every point has a link to the next chapters. In one chapter, if I miss one point, that point related, all the links related points I have to remove. That's why I'm asking you every day, give me time to teach every point. If you don't give me time, next topics are fat. So tell me now, when we throw, if you write method declaration, with the method declaration, we are giving information to method caller, also to method subclass developer. By writing throws class not found exception, I am informing to the subclass developer, hey, from your implementation, you are allowed to throw only class not found exception. So the exception you mention in the method declaration with the throws keyword, this exception may be thrown from the same method body or may be thrown from the subclass. Samajh mein aaya? Or may not be thrown from both the places. Tell me, if not thrown from the both the places, this throws class not found exception creating any problem? No. The user class programmer write try catch for safety side. You are going on your bike wearing the helmet. Tell me, today no accident happened. Will you feel sad? Unnecessary helmet I bought, helmet waste. You will feel bad. No, right? Ammaya, today no accident happened. The feeling happy, na? Some people are there who will take health insurance and term insurance. By the end of the year, if nothing happened to them, no surgeries and all, feeling so sad, unnecessary 20,000 wasted this year. Car insurance they taken. This year, no accident happened to the car, no damages are not there. 25,000 I paid, no damage happened to my car. Waste, next year I'm paying. Don't feel like that, Rabab, okay? So that money is your for safety purpose. When this year nothing happened, 25,000 rupees, don't feel wasted. Yes, 25,000 rupees protected me, nothing happened, I am safe. Okay, now again you pay 25,000 rupees next year, renewal you do this. And again you pray the God, nothing should not happen. For that 25,000 rupees should not happen something to you. Okay, na? So throws keyword is also same. Throws keyword is meant for giving information to the method developer and subclass programmer. That's why compiler not forcing you to throw exception. Throws class not found exception is performing one operation here. That's why compiler not throwing error. Catch is not performing any operation. It is meant for only catching. When no exception is coming, it is not catching. Nah? It's a waste. But throws class not found exception, not reporting the exception coming from this method. It is also reporting exception coming from subclass. Subclass is current or future. Subclass, when subclass will come? Where the time of this method development subclass will come, in future will come. Future means what? Runtime. At runtime subclass will come. In that runtime subclass, this exception throwing or not throwing, how compiler cannot to say check. Are you following my point? So throws class not found exception is meant here to tell to the subclass programmer, from your implementation, you throw only this exception. That's why compiler allowing it. So repeat once again, why catch of class not found exception not allowed? Because it is useless, because the exception not coming from the try. Catch of exception will perform only one operation, that is catching exception. If I don't throw checked exception from the try block, it never come at runtime. Number 2. If I don't throw checked exception from the method, I can report that checked exception. Compiler doesn't throw error because the method declaration exception may throw from the current method or may throw from subclass in the future. From the subclass in the future coming or not, how compiler know from here? Don't know. Because it is performing two operations. One, reporting the exception coming from this method. Also, reporting exception coming from subclass. The exception coming from subclass, I don't know. That's why compiler not throwing error here. Can you explain this point to the interviewer? Really? Right. So tell me now, what are the two rules we learn from the checked exception? Point number one, when we throw or report, can we throw or receive checked exception? We must handle either by catching using try catch or by reporting by using throws keyword. Else compiler will throw error. Unreported exception must be catch or declared to be thrown. Rule number two, without throwing checked exception from the try block, we cannot catch. Compiler throw error. Exception never thrown from the corresponding try statement. We cannot write catch block because checked exceptions are thrown by only programmer by using throw keyword. If you don't throw, exception never come. Catch block is useless. Catch block meant for performing only one operation, catching, and it is not catching any exception, so useless. Very important point. Without throwing checked exception, we cannot catch, but we can report. Compiler doesn't throw error because throws keyword not only reporting exception throwing from the current method, also represent the same exception throwing from the subclass. Subclasses will come at runtime. So compiler not throwing any error here, even though you don't throw exception from current method. Throws keyword representing two operations. Current method throwing exception and subclass must throw exception. Subclass must throw exception also representing, because it's performing two operations. Compiler feels that here it is not representing any exception. Maybe subclass throwing exception. That's why it is ignoring. Understand that? Right. Now the next interesting question. Will it throw any error? Tell. Static void M10 method. Inside M10 method, I call what? M9. M9 method, control will go to where? M9. M9 method is reporting checked exception. Here I have not handled. Program compiler, not compiled? Not compiled. Why? Checked exception. When you receive the checked exception, you must handle. M10 method is not handling the checked exception reporting from that method. Compiler throw error. Now you must get a question. Sir, M9 method doesn't have any exception, sir. It has a throws class not found exception. But here there is not throwing any exception. Who knows it? JVM knows. How compiler knows? When you call a method, compiler will see the body of the method or declaration of the method. Compiler will see only declaration of the method. Declaration of the method contains throws class not found exception. That means the class not found exception may come from current logic or may come from subclass. I cannot say. That's why compiler forcing to handle for safety. Okay, right? If you don't handle, compiler will throw error. Then tell me M11 of M9 compiler. Yes or no? Yes. Why? I am handling that reported exception by using throws keyword. Now compile successfully. Can I write like this? I have called M9 method by catching exception, also reporting exception. Can I do both? Yes. But useful? Useless. But compiler allowing, I want to write, I will write. Oi. If you catch exception and also report exception, the exception coming from M9 method caught and suppressed. From this method, any exception going out? No. Still I have written. Any problem to this method? No. Any problem to calling method? Hey. Any problem to calling method? Yes. Calling method must handle class not found exception. Otherwise compiler will throw error. So hope you understand the two rules of the checked exceptions. Really? Can you try to tell once again? Along with the two rules of checked exception, we also learned Partial and fully checked exceptions also we have learned. An exception that contains both unchecked and checked exceptions as a subclass is called partially checked exception. How many partial checked exceptions we have in Java? Only two, throwable and exception. Remaining all exceptions are either checked, unchecked exceptions or fully checked exceptions. Okay, now I want to ask next question. Ready? Pakka, you will not understand. Last batch, I have not covered these points because they cannot understand, so I didn't explain. Up here, I explained, but next points I didn't explain. So, shall I try in your batch? Ignore. Try? If you don't participate, I will skip. Okay, na? If you participate, then only will understand. Otherwise, you will not understand. These points are not meant for explanation. These points are meant for understand. You have to participate and learn. देखो ये क्या है? क्लास है, एक मेथड है, एक्सेप्शन रिपोर्टिंग और नॉट रिपोर्टिंग, नॉट रिपोर्टिंग. हाँ, वो क्यू का क्लास क्या है, क्या कर रहा है? क्यू इज ए सब क्लास. हाँ हाँ, subclass antene x and so y are reading already you told. Q is a subclass of P. What else it is doing? It is overriding. It is override. Do you remember when you are overriding a method in the superclass, you have to follow 4 rules. Rule number 1. Rule number 1. Return type must be same or covariant. Return type must be same or covariant. Rule number 2. Static modifier should not add or remove. Rule number 3. Hey. Method name and parameter should be same. Then only we can say override, mama. Come on. Are return type left side, execution level modifier, its left side what man? Accessibility modifier. Tell me, accessibility modifier must be same or must be increase but not decrease. The 3 rules we have learned in overriding chapter. Now we have 4th rule pending that day. Remember? Exception, 4th rule. Tell me, super class is not throwing any exception. Then in a subclass from overriding method, can it throw exception? Subclass must take the method according to subclass must implement the method according to its wish, according to the orders of the superclass. Superclass given orders you have to follow and implement according to your wish. By satisfying the superclass requirement, you have to implement your method. Superclass is telling that, hey, from the method logic, don't throw any exception. Then subclass also must not throw any exception. Is it compiled or not? Yes. Hey, this rule is for all exceptions or only to checked exceptions? Only to checked exception. For unchecked exception, this rule is there. Why? Compiler doesn't verify. Compiler will verify only checked exception. If a superclass method not throwing checked exception, in a subclass while overriding that method also you must not throw checked exception. If you try to throw, compiler will throw error. Tell me, any compile timer in the R class? Without thinking, how dare you to give answer? First you have to ask a question, checked or unchecked. Arithmetic is the operator, runtime exception. Tell me, checked or unchecked? Unchecked exception. Understand? Yes, sir. So any error or no error? Compiler doesn't consider it. Okay, compiled successful. Done? Yes. Slowly you take this. Class yes. Compile or not compile? Why? Class not found exception is a checked exception. Without throwing checked exception from superclass method, you cannot throw checked exception in any subclass. Every method overriding method. Compiler will throw error. M1 in yes cannot override in P because overridden method. Overridden and subclass method or superclass method? Overridden. Overridden and past tense. Past tense is superclass. Superclass method doesn't throw class not found, so you can also throw class not found. समझ में आया? ये देखो. Class T extends from P, overriding M1 method by throwing exception. Allowed or not allowed? Exception is what exception? Checked exception. Okay. On this exception, only what rule is not applied? Catch block. Remaining all rules are applied or not? Yes. Without reporting checked exception in superclass, can you throw? No. Exception cannot override M1 in P because overridden method doesn't throw exception. Ammaya. Overriding rule understood? Yes. Tell me, totally how many rules completed? 3. What the first rule? What is the rule number 1? Rule number 1. What is the rule number 2? What is the rule number 1? When you throw or receive checked exception, we must handle either by catching or reporting, else compiler throw error. Rule number 2. Checked exception from the try block. We cannot place block to the checked exception. Compiler throw error. We can place catch of exception without throwing exception from the try block for catching unchecked exception. So check exception and throwable are called what? Partially checked exception. On exception and throwable, only catch rule is not applied. Remaining all rules are applied. Without throwing checked exception from the try block, we cannot write catch, but we can write throws for giving information to subclass to inform what exception to throw from the subclass implementation. Rule number 3. Without throwing exception from superclass, in overriding method, we cannot throw checked exception in the subclass. In a subclass, while overriding this method, we cannot throw checked exception. We can throw unchecked exception. Then understand? Next question. I'm writing class my exception. Edo pair, na exception, ni exception. Okay? Class my exception extends what? Class not found exception. Tell me, class my exception is a subtype of what? Class not found. Wherever class not found exception is allowed to throw, in place of class not found, can I throw my exception or not? Yes. Why doubt? Yes. Wherever person is there can I send student? Yes. Wherever class not found exception, there I can throw what? Yes. Then tell me, I have a class with M2 method which is throwing class not found exception. What is class B? Subclass. What subclass is doing? Overriding M2 method. In overriding method, is it throwing exception? No. Can I ignore it throwing superclass exception in subclass? Subclass must throw exception. Huh? Superclass is telling that throw class not found exception. What does it mean? Compulsory throw na? If required throw na? If you want to throw an exception from your method logic, you are allowed to throw only class not found exception. If you want to ignore, ignore. Are you following? Tell me, your father is giving you an offer. If you want to go US or you want to work here, work is compulsory. Work is compulsory. Work in the India or work in abroad. That is up to you. What I am telling now, work and earn money. That earning money either local or what? Abroad. Your wish. So that means it is an option to you, na? Same way. Super class is telling that throws class not found exception. That means what? Compulsory you should throw class not found exception is not the rule. You must earn money. Compulsory earn money from the US is not the rule. How much money I am earning in the US? Same money I will be there in India and I have my business model. I will earn more than the US people. Then in that case, I no need to throw exception. Are you following my point? Right. Exception is not always mandatory to throw. Subclass programmer wanted to ignore. Okay, ignore it. Actually, I got a message from the office. If any student is not listening the class, punish him. Throws exception is nothing but punish only, na? Now my manager, my boss told me, who is me? Subclass. I'm extending his functionality. He gave me order what? If student is not studying well, not performing well, beat him and punish him. Then as a subclass teacher, is it the rule that I should punish? My wish. If you want to punish, I will punish. If you don't want to punish and just motivate and make you study, I will motivate and make you study. Two options will be there. Yes or no? That's what I am doing every day. Sometimes I am scolding. Where is my two friends? In your batch only. That day I scolded yesterday two people. Where is he? He is not coming. Absent. Because why? I scold no. If I scold, you came, huh? Okay. I don't know whether he come or not. I don't remember next day. I am such a Gajani. Only that time instantly I'll remember. These many scoldings and people faces, if I remember, my brain will get blasted, no? You know, generally last batches, people who are, very sensitive, after I scold, the students will come to me and say, sorry, sir. Sorry, why sorry? And then, sir, just now you scold. I scolded, huh? Okay, for what reason I scold? Scoldings also I will forget. Okay? So I am such a Gajani person I am. So when I scold you, I will remember only instantly that 2 minutes only. Once a class, when I say that's all for today, gone, everything removed from my brain. As he told, you will forget. Yesterday I told material I'll share. I forgot. Okay? So I don't remember once class completed, I'll become Hari Krishna. I'll come to my normal flow. Okay? I'm Aparchit. Once I say good morning, faculty will come. Okay? Once I say that's all for the day, normal person will come. So if you don't maintain that, fluctuations, if you link your real life to your professional life, personal life to professional life, you will get a lot of problems. And remember, even not only me, your classmates also will not remember you because they have their own lot of works are there. Today sir scolded whom? You are, I remember you. No one has that much time because they are very busy with his own social media. Na? People are too much waiting for when the class complete. Once the class complete, immediately what? Open mobile, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. In that flow, everything will be forgotten, including Java also, right? Forget about your faces. Java also they'll forget. So come back to the subject. When I throw exception in the super class, subclass method also should throw only same exception. I have a question. My manager strictly warned me, don't scold students in the class. But I'm coming to class and scolding. Allowed or not allowed? Not allowed. Government has passed a rule, should not punish the students in the school or college in the classroom. But the faculty coming to the school and punishing. Allowed or not allowed? Not allowed. Government has not passed any rule, punish or not punish. Then it is a teacher decision to punish or not punish. Are you catching my point? Right. Same point or here. Clear my point, right? So if a super class method content throws checked exception, subclass can ignore throwing that checked exception or must throw same checked exception or it's a subclass. but not super class. If you throw super class, compiler throw error. Overridden method doesn't throw exception. Then why? Why this rule? What the reason behind this rule? Already I have explained the overriding chapter. Tell me, as a user class programmer, will we look into the subclass to call the method, or will we look into the super class to call the method? For achieving loose coupling, we will look into super class and call the method. When I look into super class, what exception is reported here? Class not. Then what I write? Try, catch, or class not found exception E. Open bracket, closed bracket. Sleeping? Come on, wake up. I am feeling sleeping. That's why I stand and teach you. Okay. Understand why I'm standing, why I'm walking there and here? Okay. So you don't catch my points, right? So why I'm doing after I'm saying on, you will oh, this reason. Okay. Come on. So what is the point? Now to achieve loose coupling, now I am looking into the super class and call the method. Tell me by at runtime, this method M2 executed always from class A? No, depending on the subclass object you pass. If you pass a subclass object A, then executed from A, class not found exception rise, catching on terminated program normally or not? Now if you call M2 method by passing B object, then M2 method executed from which class? B class. In B class, any exception rise? No. No exception, program terminated normally. If the method is executed from class C, what exception coming? Class not found. Catching that exception and terminated normally. JVM, compiler and JVM should make sure user class program should terminate normally. Then now you call M2 method from D class. D class is throwing what exception? My exception. My exception can catch by the class not found exception. Yes, because it is a subclass. Program terminated normally. Danger fellow is coming now. You call M2 method by passing E class object. E class throwing what exception? Exception. Is that exception catched by the catch block? Below? No. Then program terminated normally or abnormally? Is this what the contract between the super class and user class? No. Super class must guarantee subclass should not face any problems at runtime. Okay. So in order to make sure, again repeating, in order to make sure the method is executing from subclass and complete user class program normally, compiler software has to take care of overriding rules. So why overriding rules are implemented? To make sure user class program is successfully executed and terminated normally. So on overriding, from exception point of view, how many rules are there? 2 rules. If a super class doesn't have throws exception, subclass should not have throws which exception? Checked exception. If a super class has a checked exception, subclass can ignore writing or can throw exception. That exception should be same checked exception or subclass but not super class, or but not sibling. But not sibling. Sibling means throws interrupted exception. Allowed or not allowed? Not allowed. And also should not be more exception. Means throws class not found exception and more sibling exception should not throw. Compiler will throw error. Everyone understand? Easy or difficult? If you practice, easy. If you don't practice, difficult. I'll show you one statement. Ready to answer? Dekho. A compiler. Class H is extending from A. Void M2 throws arithmetic exception. M2 method reporting what exception in A class? Class not found. What exception I'm throwing? Which is the sibling of class not found exception or not? Then compiler will throw. Will the compiler throw error or not? क्यों? ये unchecked exception है. Compiler कुछ नहीं करता, right? Why? Because it is a unchecked exception. Compiler just stop doing all the validations. So the provision is only for unchecked. Then tell me here. throws class not found exception and additional exception and arithmetic exception. Any error? No error. No error. Because it is unchecked, compiler will ignore. So hope you understand. Really? Acting a? No. Tell me, what are the 3 rules of checked exception? Rule number 1. When I say rule number 1, you should look at the code. What code I have explained? Throw, try you, catch you. Program should come to your mind, then convert program to theory. Come on. Look at the program M1 method and tell me. When we throw checked exception or when we receive checked exception, I must handle it either by catching or by reporting. Else compiler ko gusata. Okay, na? It will throw error. Rule number 2, without throwing checked exception from the try block, we cannot write catch block with the checked exception. Compiler will throw error because the catch block is useless. At runtime, checked exceptions will not come by JVM. Next, rule number 3. When you are overriding superclass method, in superclass, if method doesn't have throws a checked exception, in subclass we must not add throws checked exception. Compiler will throw error. For what purpose? User programmer safety. Rule number, same rule number 3 only, second point. When you are overriding superclass method, if it has throws checked exception, in subclass we can ignoring throwing exception or we can add, but it must be only same checked exception or subclass. Should not be superclass or should not be sibling. Can be unchecked exception, no problem, because compiler doesn't verify its handling. Up to now, all points understood. Okay. Shall I ask next question? Yes. Look at here. Can I write both class not and my exception also? Yes. Come. Look at here. Horrible story starting now. Shama. This point is very difficult to understand. This point is very difficult to understand. Will you try? Yes, sir. Second level of understanding. Okay. So exception, checked exception, first difficulty, first hurdle is we crossed. Now the second problem is there. Okay. If the second problem also, if you crash, over. Ante. 2 problems are there which are very difficult. Tell me, M2 method is K class own method or overriding method? Overriding method. Inside this overriding method, I am writing my own logic. As part of my logic, some exceptions are coming, which are checked exceptions. How to handle them? Are you catching my point? What is the question I am asking? I am overriding superclass method in the subclass. As part of the overriding implementation logic, some checked exceptions are coming. How to handle them? That is the topic we are understanding. Ready? Why you are considering that point, sir? If a method logic throwing checked exception, is it optional to handle or mandatory to handle? How many ways we can handle? 2 ways. Either by catching or by reporting. By reporting, don't write throws. By reporting, catching or reporting. Catching we'll see later. Now I want report-wise handle. Possible or not? Let us see now. Okay. Now if you call thread.sleep method our favorite method, when I am sleeping, if my friends are interrupting my sleeping state, I'll get angry. When you call sleep method to pass my method execution at line number 155 for 100 milliseconds, if it not passed 100 milliseconds and method exception, interrupted exception. M2 in class reporting which exception? Class not found. What exception coming from the sleep method? From sleep method call point of view, problem is solved. But now the problem coming from M2. M2 method is what method? Overriding method. To the overriding method, can I add any checked exception? I should add the checked exception which is reporting in super class. Super class reporting exception and subclass reporting exceptions are different. Compiler throw error. Cannot override M2 in A. Override method doesn't throw interrupted exception. Now what should I do? Silently comment this logic. If I comment that logic, how can I fulfill my overriding logic? That means I should find a solution. What the solution? I have only one option. What that one option? Catch it. The exception coming from the sleep method, I must catch. Now what is the point try to answer? What the rule number 4? Rule number 4. When you are overriding super class method in subclass, from the overriding logic, if I require to throw some other checked exceptions, we can only handle them by catching, cannot report them because overriding method cannot report different checked exception. Samajh mein aaya? Yes. Rule number 4, comfortable? Yes. Okay. If the exception coming from M2 method, if you catch it, are you that means this method execution is terminated with output or without output? Think. Okay. Now user programmer call M2 method by storing M object. User programmer expecting this method execution complete normally and generate result. If this method execution is a failed, result is not generated, he is expecting exception should come now. Because after M2 method calling, next lines in the try block, he will write some other logic based on the result generated by M2. No? Understanding? If you don't get clarity as a programmer, you will face problem in the company. When you call a method based on the result generated from this M2 method, down lines we will write int a equal to integer dot parse int of args of 0. That line is successfully executed. Then down I am writing int b equal to a plus b. Yes or no? Parse int method throw number format exception to our class or not? Suppose parse int method catching the exception inside the program and silently return to our program. Result generated or not generated? Without generating result, next line int b equal to executing or not? No, na, yes, na. Parse int method not throwing exception, na. Int a equal to integer dot parse int of args of 0 you pass. Args of 0 giving double quotes a. Double quotes a is given to parse int method. Parse int method got exception. Parse int method got exception in the logic. Is it throwing to our program or not throwing? Really throwing. Okay, you are in a real flow. I am asking the failure flow. Okay, reality throwing exception. That's why we are getting correct results to our program. Suppose parse int method not throwing exception. Then what happened to your program? Control come to the your program normally. Yeah? Really throwing the ray. Don't consider real flow. Assume parse int method execution failed, but it is not throwing exception to your program. Control come from parse int method to your program normally. When normal flow is coming, next line will be executed or not? In the next line, int b equal to a plus 1, correct value generating or wrong value generating? Then tell me, when you call a method, if the method execution is a failed, exceptions are raised, exception should catch there, should throw to our programmer. Must throw to our program. That's what we learned in yesterday class. When to use throws, when to use try catch. If I am developing business logic for other programmer, if his values are valid, if values are valid, perform the business operation, generate result and return result. If the given inputs are wrong, throw exception and catch a reporter. Throw exception and report him so that he will receive exception and his next lines of code will be terminated. Wrong result will generated or right result generated. Right result there in his user program, correct results will be generated. Understand? Am I going fast? Catch the speed? Understand the visualization? Come to the point now. Now user programmer from main method called M2 method. M2 method execution is failed. Exception rise, interrupted exception rise. Interrupted exception is caught. Then exception caught, done nothing. Then after this catch block, control go back to main method. Array, inside main method, after M2 method call, I have written some more lines of the code now. Are those lines executed now? Yes. Must execute or must not execute? Must not execute. Why? Because M2 method execution is failed. Results are not generated. Understand the balance? Tell me, the implementation is right or wrong? Wrong implementation. Finally, come to a conclusion. When you are overriding superclass method in subclass, as part of overriding logic, if some other exception, some other checked exceptions are rising, actually I should throw to user class. But am I allowed to throw or not allowed? Not allowed. Then what I should do? I must only catch. You are catching because of your intention, compiler forcing you are. Compiler forcing us to catch that exception, not allowing us to report. That's why you caught that exception to satisfy compiler. Okay, now tell me, is this implementation is valid implementation, right design or wrong design? Wrong design. Then what to do? Remove try catch. If remove try catch, compiler slap me. Add a try catch, wrong design. Hey, enter it. Do you all understand my point? Do you all understand my problem? When you are overriding superclass method in subclass, as part of overriding logic, if you want to throw different checked exception, possible or not possible? Not possible. If not possible, user class programmer don't know that exception rising in my program and he will not receive any exception. Now the program will continue normal flow. Finally, we'll get what? Wrong results. Then finally, Java, robusta, not robusta. Not robust, because generating what? Wrong results. But Sun Microsystem promised what? What he told, Java is robust. Always it generate correct results. We're generating, not generating. Na? Understood? Huh? Yes, really? Yes, this much discussion to the Amirpet level not required. What I say? Not allowed. Get out. Then what to do? Catch it. Over. Then. Once you come to the company, this code will not be there. Whatever we done and stopped here at Amirpet level will not be there. Project level discussion will be different. Now I am taking this point to our company project level. What is our course? Java now. Java with the project development. My project, if I don't explain, where is the project development? So this is Amirpet. In Amirpet, these points are not teaching way, go and check with your friends. Okay, na? These checked exception rules, they say checked exception. They will tell only first rule. What the rule? You must handle. Why? Compiler coming, compiler throwing error. That's why checked exception means what? Some people will say a compile time exception is called checked exception. Do palabhishekam to him. Compile time exception, how compiler will throw a compile time exception? Why they are telling that compile time exception? Because of two reasons. Reason number one, unchecked exceptions are subclass of runtime exception. No, opposite is what? Compile time exception. Number two, errors are coming at what time? Compile time. Unreported exception. Exception. Because of the message exception, people are feeling it is an exception. No, it is a compile time error, syntax mistake. So, if anybody say a checked exception is a compile time exception, immediately ask your friends to not go to that class. Is creating wrong thought process to your mind. A exception whose handling is mandatory. If you don't handle compiler throwing error, then that is called what? Checked exception. How many rules people are teaching checked exception? Only one rule. When we throw checked exception, we must handle either by catching or reporting. And type checked exception, 5 minutes topic over. This is all nonsense. For whom? Amirpet people who want to become Java student, who want to walk on the Amirpet roads and roaming on Amirpet roads. Finally, will go either college lecturer or some other, and next level generation's life should be spoiled. Unfortunately, this fellow got the job in company. Unfortunately. Okay. Then every day pressure, because what you learnt in Amirpet will not be there in company. The way you feeded Java knowledge in your mind, it is not sufficient. For example, you want to ride a horse. Okay, now you want to ride a horse. You want to be a horse rider. Then now the horse master will be there, no? Horse master will be there holding its what do you call it, as a tail, sorry, what is it? Handler. Okay, and then now you are there on the horse. He is holding and going. Okay, and horse is under control of that master, and now turning and coming. Okay, 10 rupees taking and asking, get out. Do you have any problem? No. Why? Master is there. Under control. Ameripet, as long as you are an Ameripet faculties and Ameripet trainers, YouTube trainers will make the story very smooth to you. Nothing is there. Java very easy. Java really very tough. Ameripet Java definitions are easy. Project level Java is very difficult if you don't understand two levels. What is that? Programmer and user programmer and subclass. LCRP architecture and the flow of execution between these three programs, if you understand, Java is very easy, and your mind will not stop at core Java level. It keep on asking this point, how to use in project, what the problems in the project will face, this type of thinking. That means the master is not there with you. Okay, you get onto the what do you call, horse, that rope you are taking into your hand, and the moment if you say horse, chalo, where is chalo? Gone. Somewhere it will throw you down and standing. So if you want to control that horse, you should know all these points. Hope you are enjoying. Yes. Really? Yes, feeling difficult to your brain? No. You should not feel difficult. You should not feel, hey, what is happening? I'm not understanding. Why you are not understanding? Because you are listening. If you speak, you will involve, and your mind will start visualizing. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4th day, it will start the flow. It will understand the flow. That visualization will come. You know, when I don't explain that internals, your brain will ask, hey, something missing, right? Something missing. You know, you will feel that, you know, that fish is taking out from the water and place on the floor. How you are, you know, how the fish is getting problem. Same your body also feeling, hey, something missing. You are missing something, not telling a lot of things. That feeling you will get. Not only in my class, if you learn like this, in advanced Java, in Spring Boot also, you will feel something missing, more I want. That hungry will start in your stomach or brain. Like how you are getting hungry in your stomach and searching for tasty food, no? Like that, your brain also will start searching for tasty food, Java. If your faculty not teaching, based on that, your brain will start searching in the Google and finding more points. Is it clear, Nana? Ready to learn next difficulty point? Ready? Yeah? What is the problem now? Did you understand the problem? If you understand problem, solution is easy. What is the problem? When we are overriding super class method in the subclass, we cannot throw different checked exception. We cannot throw different checked exception for compiler or JVM. JVM don't have any problem. It's all the problems of what? Compiler. We cannot throw different checked exception because it's a rule of compiler software to make user class program complete normally. Can I bluff compiler? From the childhood we are learning how to cheat compiler, how to bluff compiler. Remember? I can bluff compiler. Remember Vasikar? Robo? Sana? Okay? Listen. I want to kill my enemy by using one knife. This much big knife I'm holding in my hand, going on the road seriously. Then what happened? People will call to police, and police patrol will be surrounding me with big, you know, what do you call it? Guns, and saying, hey, who are you? Where are you going? Okay, na? If I directly show the knife to the world, then problem. What am I doing? I'm hiding that knife in my bag. Silently with a smile face, I'm going on the road. Anybody got doubt? No. Is police surrounding me? No. I'm waiting on the corner of the road for my enemy to come. Checking, not coming. Okay? Again, every 5 minutes, I'm checking my enemy coming or not. After half an hour, enemy coming. Now I got alerted. Right? Put my hand inside the bag, waiting for my enemy coming. The moment he come nearer to me, catch his hand. Okay, na? catch his neck and then take the knife from bag and started killing him. Yes or no? Now he is my enemy. He went to the Pathan movie by missing Java. He loves Shah Rukh Khan, will not love Hari Krishna. Okay. So he's giving importance to his friends, but not giving importance to this best friend. How dare you to? You miss the class? Every dog has a dare. Okay. I will take revenge on you now. Okay. Now come to the point now. So what I am doing here, very, very important. If I want to carry the knife, society will not allow me. If I hide it and bring, allowing a? Yes. Who is the society here? Compiler. What is that knife? Exception. Tell me. Now the society is allowing me to take what? Bag. What is that bag? Throws class not found exception. Samajh mein aaya? Compiler software allows me to throw what exception from this M2 method? Class not found exception it allows to throw me. Understand? But what exception I want to throw? Interrupted exception. Listen carefully. Interrupted exception is knife. What exception allowed to throw? Class not found exception. In the real world, what I did? I put that knife inside the bag and throwing what? Bag. Now inside M2 method, first I catch my hands. My hand is what? Catch only. Na? My hand catching that knife, catching the interrupted exception. Samajh mein aaya? The exception raised in the try block is catching and available inside where? E. Inside catch block, can I create class not found exception object by myself? Yes. How can I write? New class not found exception. That means what is ready? Bag ready. Inside the bag, can I put my exception? Yes. That means as an argument to class not found exception, can I pass my exception object? Yes. Earlier, we created new arithmetic exception in the parenthesis. We pass string error message. Remember? Double quotes division by 0. Don't pass negative number. Pass the value between 1 to 10. Like string error message. In place of string error message, now I am passing what? Exception object. Come on, visualize. Void M2. What is allowed to write here? Throws class not found exception. Hello, online students. Understanding? Right? Void M2 throws class not found exception, and then try block what you have written? Thread dot sleep of 100. Now this sleep method throwing interrupted exception. That interrupted exception catch by E. And inside catch block, what I am writing? New class not found exception of the parameter E I am passing semicolon. Samajh mein aaya? And then what I did? The knife, what is there in my hand? Put inside bag. Now can I carry this bag from my house to outside road? Before new class not found exception, can I write throw keyword now? Yes or no? Throw class not throw new class not found exception of E. When you throw class not found exception, is that class not found exception allowed to throw via M2 method? Yes. What is the outer exception visible to compiler? Class not found. What is there inside? Interrupted exception. The exception there inside can see by compiler? No. Matching. Class not found to class not found. Then tell me, at runtime, what exception going out of M2 method to the main method? Class not found exception with the interrupted exception. Now tell me, catch block can catch class not found exception? Yes or no? Outer exception is class not found. Tell me, the logic I have written after M2 method, what are the statements I have written? Everything is terminated. Will go to what? Catch block. Catch block catching exception. Alternative logic is now executing or not? Tell me, the program execution, wrong result generated or not generated? Not generated. So tell me, what is the solution to the overriding method problem? When we overriding superclass method in the subclass, if we require to throw different checked exception, I must wrap those exceptions. Wrap means what? Cover. I must wrap those exceptions in the exception that is allowed to throw from this method. Samajh mein aaya? Then user class programmer have already had what? Try catch block to catch that method reporting exception. So program terminated normally and wrong results will not be generated. Everyone understand? Listen carefully. Placing an exception inside another exception, throwing both together out of this method is called exception chaining. Earlier class not found exception is separate and interrupted exception is separate. Now what are you doing? Chaining them. Train bogie is there. Train bogie is different. Train engine is different. Can this bogie can run on the rail track? No. Who can pull this bogie? Train engine. Now we are chaining train bogie to engine. When engine is running, backside bogie also coming na? Tell me, when you see the train, are you telling that bogie going? No. What are you doing? Train engine going along with the train engine. Now what? Bogie also going. Here who is the train engine? Reporting exception. Who is the bogie? That is stored inside exception. Both together is called what? Exception chain. Hello, all people understand? I completed the horrible topic of our exception handling chapter. What is that? Exception chaining. There are two ways of chaining exception. Okay, let me come. Ready? Now look at this code. Can you understand? Whatever I have explained, that is this code. I didn't explain first. I just make you visualize. Now, user a programmer call M2 method. M2 method is a overriding method. It can report only throws class not found exception. Online students, line number 173. Looking at M2 method can report only class not found exception. Then inside class not found exception, I call thread dot sleep of 20, which will throw interrupted exception. Can I throw it directly? No. What I did? Try catch. Then the exception coming here will catch by interrupted exception. Then interrupted exception catch block, catching that exception contained inside E. Then down inside catch block, what am I doing? What exception allowed to throw? Class not found exception. Class not found exception is catching this exception and placing what? Creating class not found exception, storing interrupted exception. That means what I did technically, I am wrapping interrupted exception by class not found exception. Actually, wrapping terminology is only for primitive data types are allowed. In exception point of view, you say wrapping or chaining. I am chaining interrupted exception to class not found exception and throwing both together. For a compiler, which exception it is seeing? Class not. Allowed through class not? Yes. It's going to the main method. Main method catching that exception and executing alternative logic, right results are generated. So this concept is called about exception chaining. Now, when should I develop exception chaining? When we are overriding a method and required to throw different checked exception, then I have to implement exception chaining. How can I implement exception chaining? The different exception which you require to throw, first of all, catch. Inside catch block, create the checked exception object that can throw through this method, and in that exception store our exceptions and throw both together. Then to the out of this method, only one exception going up, both exception going. Okay, up to now all people understand? I have a question. Ready to answer? I have goods engine, goods train engine. To that goods train engine, can I attach passenger bogie? Why? Yes, sir. Your life will become, after 1 year. If you want to go from Hyderabad to Bangalore with the goods train, it takes 1 week time. Is it okay? No. So tell me, is engine goods train engine compatible with passenger bogie? No. That means goods train is compatible only to carry what? Goods bogie. Hello, understand? Come. Class not found exception is not meant for chaining to other exceptions. Class not found exception is representing its own runtime error. Na? What error? Loading problem. Class loading problems are represented by class not found exception. Will it support exception chaining? No. How can you decide an exception chaining is supported or not? Very simple, yeah. You are passing exception object as argument to constructor, na? After new keyword class not found exception parenthesis. What is it? It is a constructor call. If you call a constructor, constructor definition must be available, na? If I call constructor without argument, no param constructor. It's a compiler searching for no param constructor. If we pass a double quotes, searching for string parameter. If we pass some number here 5, int param constructor. Tell me, if we pass here exception, it is searching for which constructor? Exception parameter constructor. If an exception class want to support exception chaining, it will contain exception parameter constructor. Class not found exception doesn't support exception chaining because it is meant for representing its own error. Tell me, to the bus, can you attach train bogie? No. Why? Bus itself is meant for carrying the passengers. It's not meant for carrying other passenger through train, right? So, class not found exception is meant for representing its own errors. So, again, right? Again, we come back to the first point. Using class not found exception, which is reporting by M2 method, I cannot wrap that exception, I cannot chain because it is not supporting exception chaining. Ramachandra, what to do? You are a software engineer, think. What is the solution? What is our ultimate target? From overriding method, also I must throw exceptions rising in my method. Directly I cannot throw. So we have to think for what? Alternative. Tell me now, I wanted to kill my enemy with this lengthy knife. Very lengthy knife I want to use. Do you have any bag, that much size bag? No. Chota bacha knife ante I can have bag to carry. But I required what? Long, 1 meter or 2 meters knife I want to use to kill. Then is there any bag? No. Then tell me how to hide. Think how to hide. Use paper. Use paper and wrapper. Wow, okay. Ultimately, what is our target? I should not make the knife visible to others. So what I need to do? I should use a paper or paper box, like Amazon box coming, na? Like that, one box I have to manufacture to carry this knife, or I have to use what? Paper wrapping to this knife. Then no one will, people are feeling that I am carrying one, something, okay? Are you catching my point? But people will not think it is a knife, that's all. I should make sure it is not a knife. Same way, compiler software, class not found exception not supporting exception chaining. Okay. So class not found exception I cannot use. Next, what you should think? What else the exceptions compiler allow me to throw from this M2 method? First, what exception it is allow me to throw? Class not found exception. Second, what other exceptions it allows to me throw? Arithmetic exception. What the meaning of arithmetic exception? Unchecked exception. Super. Tell me, can I use runtime exception? Can I use runtime exception to wrap this exception? Possible or not? What is the problem? Sibling. So what is the problem? Who? Through whom you are sending? Through throws class not found exception, you are sending exceptions. Is it a written type of this data type? No. By using throws class not found exception, we are informing to the compiler. Compiler make sure from this method body, this exception only throwing. It is not going through the throws class not found exception. Huh? What did we learn? Throws keyword only meant for giving information to compiler and programmer, not to the JVM. Throws class not found exception doesn't do any work at runtime. Who will throw class not found exception? Throw. Is it going through throws class not found exception? No. There is no link in throw to throws. It is only meant for compiler to inform from this method class not found exception only you are allowed to throw. Are you catching my point? If you throw other than those exceptions, because which exception I ask compiler to allow? Class not. Because you are throwing another exception, so compiler throwing error. Why I mentioned sibling should not allow? Checked exception only, sibling not allow. Tell me, when you are throw new runtime exception, it is what type of exception? Checked or unchecked? When it is unchecked, is it comparing with the throws class not found exception? No, no. It is ignoring, right? And this exception, throw keyword not throwing this exception via throws. Are you following my point? It's not like a return type. It is just an information to the compiler. That's it. Are a compiler, any checked exception coming from my method, that checked exception should be either class not found exception or it's a subclasses. But what exception I'm throwing? Unchecked. When it is unchecked, compiler silent. Go into meditation. I don't do anything. Everyone understand? Tell me now. What exception coming from the try block? Interrupted. Suddenly you change from thread.sleep to new interrupted exception. I'm confusing, sir. Hey, sleep method will throw always exception? No. But I want interrupted exception to understand the flow of execution here. That's why I'm writing my own exception. Is it okay now? Yes. Try, inside try, throw, interrupted exception. 100% I want exception. That's why I'm throwing myself. And that exception will go to where? Catch. Then catch block via E parameter, it is throwing inside where? Runtime exception. Is runtime exception support exception chaining? Yes. Okay. Runtime exception is meant for only two purposes. Number one, catching its subclasses as a backup catch block and supporting what? Exception chaining. There is no runtime error to represent runtime exception. Division by zero, arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception representing division by zero. Array index out of bounds exception representing array index problem. Runtime exception not representing any error. It is just meant for acting as a backup catch block to catch all runtime exceptions and also supporting what? Exception chaining. Samajh mein aaya? Now, throw new runtime exception of E. E is went into where? Runtime exception. Which exception coming out from this empty method? Runtime. Runtime exception is checked, unchecked, unchecked. Compiler ignore and compile successfully. Control 1. Compile. Samajh mein aaya? Now tell me, how many ways we can implement exception chaining? 2 ways. What is exception chaining? Storing one exception object in another exception object and throwing both out of this method is called what? Exception chaining. Point number 1. Point number 2. How many ways we can implement exception chaining? 2 ways. Number 1. Wrap that exception into the checked exception which is reporting from current method. Number 2, wrap the exception into unchecked exception and throw. 2 ways. So when to use which approach? Okay. Exception chaining need. What's the need of it? When exception chaining I have to implement when we are overriding a method, as part of overriding logic, if you require to throw different checked exception, then I have to implement exception chaining. Next, now which approach is the best approach? Runtime unchecked exception wise best or same reporting checked exception wise best? Unchecked exception. Same reported exception is the best. So if we have to first take the option what? Same reported exception as an option to wrap this exception. When I should go for unchecked exception, if the reporting checked exception not supporting exception chaining, then I have to take the help of what? Unchecked exception. First of all the people understand it? Okay, comma, problem with second approach. There is a problem with second approach. Ah, 1 minute, I didn't complete my explanation. Problem with second approach. What is the second approach? The same checked exception or unchecked exception? Tell me. There is a problem. I'm coming to your question. Okay. That is the next answer. I know what question you will ask. Because your mind, my mind almost, sinking. Always you're asking what next question I'm going to explain. Wait. Throw new runtime exception. Everyone ready to understand? Last difficulty point. Array, why compiler software not allowing you to throw different checked exception? Why it is forcing you to throw only class not found exception? That rule is created for super class purpose, subclass purpose, user class purpose, user class purpose, right? To make sure user class can catch exception and terminate program normal. Which exception? User class is writing try catch by looking into whom? Super class. Yes or no? In super class, what exception you are throwing? Class not found exception. In user class, which exception you called? Class not found exception. What exception you are throwing from subclass? Then runtime exception can catch class not. In a user class, catch of class not found exception can catch this runtime exception? No. Is there a question? I know, I know. You will ask the same question. Are you catching my point? Really? What the problem with unchecked exception? When we throw unchecked exception from the overriding method, user class execution will terminate abnormally because user class don't know what exception coming. User class know only class not found exception coming from this method. User class don't know different type of exception coming. Then user class program will be terminated abnormally. Shall we try? Shall we try? If I bring the code down, you will see the solution. What is the solution to this problem? You find and come tomorrow. Class not found? You want to pass to the user programmer string message or exception? You cannot pass whatever you want. Okay. Bro, 1 minute. I'll tell you. I want to kill my enemy. Then I'm taking toy knife. Can I kill? That's what you're asking. Sir, anyways, outside people are not allowing the knife. Instead of taking the bag, use one toy knife, sir. With the toy knife, what I can do? Nothing I can. I can only say, hey, abracadabra. He will kill me in return. Are you catching my point? What exception coming out from the program? That exception object I should throw the user class. I should not throw error message of that exception. Okay? All people understand? If error message you want to throw, why unnecessary all this nonsense? Not required. So what the problem now? Try to answer. I want you find answer to that problem. If you find answer, you will enjoy. Definitely will peaks enjoy. Okay? That 1 point to find answer exception handling chapter fully you have to revise. When you revise previous topic, somewhere I have explained that point, how to solve this problem. Tomorrow, if I ask 2 to 3 questions, you will only give answer. Okay, sir. Okay. I want the answer by you yourself. If you are unable to answer, I will help you. Don't worry. Okay. So what the problem? If I throw unchecked exception as a exception chain, user class program doesn't know that I am throwing unchecked exception. And in that program, in that user class, the program will be terminated abnormally. I should not terminate my program abnormally. How to handle this unchecked exception in user class? Come with a solution tomorrow. That's all for today class. That's all for today class. Okay. Thank you. I hope I told. That's all for today class. If you talk, other people get the thought process. I don't want. Okay. Right. So hope you enjoyed today class. What we discussed today class, checked and unchecked exceptions and checked exception rules. Each checked exception rules completed? No, we completed only 4 rules. Okay. First one is what? Catch. I mean, you must handle. Next one is cannot catch. Next one is what? Super class. Overriding method should not add exception. Should not. If not there, should not add. If there, you can add or you can remove. And fourth rule is what? Overriding method. From the overriding method, we cannot throw different checked exception. In that process of throwing different checked exception, we have understood exception chaining. And now tomorrow we have required more 3 rules to learn. We will learn in tomorrow class and wind up. Clear my point? Right. So please work out and find the solution to the problem and come. Okay. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.